Okay, Sonia, what about tip number 4, please?
Okay, tip number 4 links to tip number 3. Go out and visit other schools. See what they're doing. The amount of times we work with schools as a research school, and also when we were a teaching school, and school, they would come to St Matthew's and they say, oh, it's so great to be out of our school building and seeing what others do. And I'm not advocating that you go to other schools to copy what they do. But what it does provide is just a wider lens. And that is so crucial as educators. We need a wider lens. And we need to not be insular. When you're insular, you lose momentum, you lose the focus of what is happening now. And often schools can get into you get into a silo, don't you? And you're just regurgitating things that work for you, but there could be something better.
Yeah.
And that's what we always need to remember. It's not that things don't work for us, but there could be something better out there that we can start to think about and contextualise for ourselves. We're not going to pick up and lift what that other school is doing, but we're going to start thinking about it. And it may be something that we can add in, something we can, manipulate that works for us. So it really is about not being too one track, but having that wider lens on education. And I think going to other schools is great.
This is fantastic. I have loads to ask you on this because first off, I fully agree with you. I think it's a brilliant thing to do. I'd add the slight disclaimer that I think, as we talked about before, make sure you've seen the good stuff within your own school maybe first. Because often, as we've said, you can go out looking for the great stuff and it's in the room next door.
It's right there. Yeah, definitely.
But now I've loads of things to ask you about this. So first, what about the logistics? If somebody contacts you and says, I want to visit St Matthew's, obviously, you can say, oh yeah, of course, come in, and they can have a chat to you and so on. But what they really want to see is what's going on in lessons and so on. So how do you kind of sell that to the staff? Because a lot of staff are quite intimidated when they're, being observed, and particularly if they're almost being held up as, come in and watch me, and these are outsiders coming in. I can imagine that's quite intimidating. How do you get them on board with that?
And I think it is about being honest with other people who are coming in to see what you do, because I think as schools we have to be clear that this is what we do, and what we do is based on our context for our children, based on what our children need. So what you'll see is where we've used research, we've made sure that we've contextualized that, we know what works, and then we're working in that middle place. Hopefully that sweet spot for us. So what you're seeing is what we do. Our teachers, I think we've come to a place now where when we have visitors coming, we are very honest. We say to our visitors, you're going to see this, you're going to see that. Don't go in there, don't go in there. We're not letting you in that room. Just be honest, honest. Show them where you found a good practice. Don't just open the school out, because if there's teachers who are not comfortable, then there's no point, there's no purpose, it doesn't help anybody. So even if it's about a couple of classrooms that you're showing them and you're talking it through. So we do a kind of threefold morning. We talk about our context, we talk about what works for us, we show classrooms, but we say don't go in there, don't go in there, don't go in there. We bring our subject leaders in to talk about books and talk about what we do, and then people who come in can ask questions. So be really clear about what you are. Don't just have people come in and there's not a clear program of what you're going to do with them. It's not just a free-for-all, go anywhere, because you often need people to narrate what they're seeing.
Yes.
You need people to signpost them to what is the good practice that they're looking for. Often people can come in and not see what they want to see because they just don't see it, they just don't get it. So you do need some narration of that. So be really clear, give as many signposts as possible. Yeah.
And do you find it tends to be kind of one-way traffic in the sense that people want to come to see your school, or do you have kind of reciprocal arrangements where your colleagues can get out to other schools? Because that's often kind of the disadvantage of being in a school that's doing well, is that people want to see you, but you don't get that chance to go out and see other things. How does that work?
Oh, we're out and about all the time. I think that's for me, that is one of the things that moved us forward, in that we were able to go to others, and we were very deliberate about researching schools, finding out about the similarities in terms of context, the area where the school was. the kind of population that they served, and went to see what they did. And I think, again, you've got to just be really clear about what you're going for, what you want to pick up, what you can leave behind, and what you can then move forward. And sometimes it's not going to be everything, it's not going to be anything, but, it's about giving people a chance to just see. And I've seen people just come back so infused. They either say, gosh, this is really great to be at St Matthew's, or they say, actually, there's some great things that we can learn and move forward here as well. And I think one of the great things about our senior leaders here is that they do get a chance to go out and talk to every people about what they see, and we've changed and aligned and manipulated, got rid of things because of what we've heard. But you've got to be really clear about that pathway. Yeah.
This is fantastic. Just 2 more questions on this. We'll speak to you about this all day. If we've got a teacher listening here who thinks, you know what, I really want to go out and visit a school now, if they have the email address of the head teacher or senior leader or whatever, what would you be looking for in an email that would make you think, yeah, I want this person to kind of come down my school? Because I can imagine somebody, you can get an email saying, look, I want to come in, and you're like, well, forget it. What kind of things do people need to be saying? What are the genuine reasons that you for wanting to come in, if that makes sense?
I think for me, you're always suspicious when people just say we want to come and visit.
Yeah.
And you're waiting for that. You're scrolling down to see the rest of it, but there's nothing there. We will. If people come to us because they heard about that, it's either reading, or it's curriculum, or it's behaviours, or it's culture. If people are specific, because you can't do everything. So if a school's already thought we're looking at that, we can get some support with that particular thing. I always worry when people say we want to see 5 different things and we've only got a morning. Yeah. Can't see 5 things. So it is about being really clear. If you want to visit another school, be clear about what, and it makes it easier for that school as well to kind of tailor and organise the morning, or whenever the time is, for you to be able to do that. Yeah.
That's great. Right, I've got one more question directly related to this, but then a bonus question, if that's okay. So my question directly related is there any benefit, do you think, of primary teachers visiting secondary schools and secondary teachers visiting primary schools? And is this something you've experienced of?
I think it's absolutely crucial for transition, just for both sides to really understand, primary and secondary, to understand each other and what we do. I think people will be surprised at just how confident primary pupils are in their space when they're learning, the level of independence. And I think there is a scariness for children. There is a kind of falling off when they go to secondary school and they become the smallest in the small fish in the big pond. So it is really useful for teachers to kind of get that sense. But I think on the other side, it's also really important for primary pupils to know, particularly for their feeder schools, what is it that you would like us to focus on? What would you like us to get your children ready for, our children ready for? Because often we don't know what the view from the other side is. So I just think there's a brilliant opportunity for that two-way collaboration.
That's fantastic. You've answered my bonus question because I was interested in what makes successful transition. And again, I've done it all wrong in the past, where it's been very much the primary kids come to the secondary school, we teach them a kind of secondary school maths lesson, and often they're probably thinking, we've done all this in year 4, it's absolutely terrible, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, any time I've been lucky enough to visit primary college, I'm always blown away by the depth of maths and the quality of teaching. It's scary. It puts me to shame a lot of the time. So I'll ask you a second follow-up question. This could be the worst question I've asked you all day, this. But just in general, I mean, it's terrible, but just in general, do you think there's anything that primary school teachers can learn from secondary and secondary can learn from primary? Just like as a general couple of things that you think secondary teachers do that actually quite well, we could learn from that, and vice versa? Or do you think is that too general to kind of pick up on anything?
I think because I am such an advocate for reading for pleasure, I know that much more secondary schools are creating this kind of really strong pathway for reading for pleasure within their schools. I think they could learn how we engage children with books. I often think, when I visited a primary school the other day and I saw and I'm not going to say anything, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and I was like, no, we don't know. We're not reading that in year 6. We've moved past. We are really trying to broaden and deepen our children's reading, and I just think that if the progression was there, and I know what I've been really enthusiastic about is so many secondary schools are plotting that pathway out now and using things like tutor time to really engage and read aloud to pupils, and our primary pupils just love that. They are fully on board with that. So it's about, come and have a look, come and see the kind of books that we're reading, come and hear what we've done with Reading for Pleasure at primary. I think at secondary, I think there is a level of how children become so independent. I think we can be a little bit, because they're in one class all the time in primary. I think, how do we develop that level of independence? And I think we think our children are independent based on where they come through from reception, key stage 1, by the time they get to year 6, we think they're independent, but actually, what more could we do? What could we do? And it'd be great to see how secondary practitioners really get children to just know where to go, what to do, how to do it in a really organised way. Yeah.
Tell you what, I'd love some of my year 11s to be independent, but anyway, that's another story.
I love that. Somebody that's interesting, because somebody made that comment the other day, and said, "Gosh, are you sure we're as independent as you think we are?"